What's up, everyone? This is Dana Harris once again with Young Gurus Math Tutoring, and we're continuing to talk about rationalizing the denominator. In this third example, we're going to rationalize the denominator by using the conjugate. So we start off with 5 over the square root of 2 minus the square root of 3. Now, in order to rationalize this denominator, we must multiply by the conjugate of the square root of 2 minus the square root of 3, which is simply, we're going to use the same terms, the square root of 2 and the square root of 3. Where we started with subtraction, we're going to use addition. So the conjugate of this, we're going to use addition, but we still have the same two terms. Whatever we do to the denominator, we must do to the numerator. So I'm going to multiply the numerator by the square root of 2 plus the square root of 3. Now, mathematically, in this denominator, we're actually multiplying these two binomials by the process of FOIL. First, outer, inner, last. So what we have is the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. And then we're going to have plus the square root of 2 times the square root of 3 minus the square root of 2 times the square root of 3. And then we're going to have minus the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. Now what's going to actually happen is these two middle terms are going to cancel out. In the numerator, we still have 5 times the square root of 2 plus the square root of 3. These two middle terms cancel out because this would actually be the square root of 6 and this would be minus the square root of 6. So they cancel out in the middle. Now here, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is actually just 2. Anytime you have a radical multiplied by itself, it's going to leave you with just a number under the radical. And so over here we have minus 3 because the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is simply 3. In the numerator, we can leave it in this form or we can actually distribute it. It just depends on what the instructor is looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and use the distributive property. So I have 5 times the square root of 2 plus 5 times the square root of 3. We simplify this, last but not least, 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And in the numerator, we have 5 times the square root of 2 plus 5 times the square root of 3. And that is how you rationalize the denominator using conjugates.